Hey everybody, welcome to the Dashboard Canteen, the podcast where we explore how data shapes the way we work, decide and grow. I'm your host, David Druckmann at Shift Consulting, and today we're diving into a topic that's transforming how organizations make decisions. Joining me today is Jane Smith, Field Chief Data and AI Officer at ThoughtSpot, an upcoming leader in delivering modern business intelligence solutions. At Shift, we know all about reporting, and one of our main reasons why we're working with ThoughtSpot is their absolute expertise with full natural language reporting. We're here to unpack with Jane what natural language really means, why it's more important than ever, and what businesses need to consider when adopting it. We have a lot of customers that use Netflix, Google, and Alexa at home. Then they log into the business platform and wait, where is the search bar? So today we're talking about the business to customer-ification, the B2C-ification of business analytics. So Jane, I'm seeing you chuckling a bit, so I think you've observed that customers now want B2C experiences from their B2B tools. And what does this look like in the data and reporting space, Jane?
Thanks, David. Yes, still laughing at the B2C-ification. That's a word that's going to catch on real quick, isn't it? Right. Yeah, absolutely. Everything you've said is completely correct. Everybody wants from their B2B tools now what they get from B2C tools. I can track my pizza order in real time. I want to track my shipments too. So this is what we're seeing, and we see this a lot at ThoughtSpot because we provide the analytics for many companies who provide the analytics to their customers. So we can we've seen a lot what people want now, at the sort of more nascent end of the data analytics spectrum. If you're a market research firm, probably not long ago, you provided quarterly reports to big, huge companies on brand health tracking, something like that. And companies like that, they don't want reports anymore. They want to see brand perceptions from multiple sources in real time and always on live boards. The time of the static report, I think we know, goes without saying, is over. We see data companies who maybe provide consumption data, sales data to big pharma companies, for example. They don't want to, those pharma companies, they don't want to just be able to query the data, and they don't want to send their analysts to do it. They want their business users to be able to query it in natural language. That's the big change we've seen. And I myself, David, I used to be a chief data officer, and we used to provide data shares to companies that viewed our data. They viewed our sales through us, and providing the best practice data share was incredible at the time. They loved it because the data scientists could run models on it, and they just don't want it anymore. They want their business users to be able to run natural language. Okay. So very much we're seeing customers demand conversational analytics, the ability to ask questions of the data and have the data talk back to them and give them answers in natural language. I'm just going to add something on as well. I see customers a lot more now wanting context-rich insight. So, customers don't want to know. They don't want an alert telling them that sales are down. They want to know why sales are down. They want to know what's driving this anomaly that you're seeing. And then a final thing I'm seeing from customers is they really are very data savvy, AI savvy. Sorry, they know about hallucinations. They want to know. They want you to be able to say, "This is why we don't hallucinate." They will ask you questions about black box. They will ask you, "Are we getting deterministic or stochastic outputs?" They are hyper aware of this iteration of AI. Actually, also what I'm seeing from customers is David, is that they want to know how you're building for the future. There's a very new iteration, a very exciting iteration of AI coming, which is agentic and autonomous. And they want to know, well, if we go with you, are we building for that future, or do we have to do another big transformation in another couple of years' time? So I guess you can tell from all those words, I'm seeing quite a lot in what customers expect from B2B tools. The standards are high.
Thank you very much. Very clear on those customer expectations. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot going on in that kind of consumerism that's kind of transforming into a corporate consumerism of data. So I agree. So we talk a lot about natural language as the new normal as well, and I think you mentioned customers wanting to create data in natural language, like you were just saying, the kind of consumerized data that they can touch straight away. How realistic is this expectation, and what does a good implementation look like today?
It is absolutely realistic to query data in natural language. You don't have to ask analysts now. You don't have to configure. You don't have to write a lot of code to get intel from your data. It can be queried in natural language. And there are several different ways that this can be done. You can use a tool like ThoughtSpot, which has been built search native about 12 years ago. So it really has been fortuitous for ThoughtSpot, the ChatGPT and the LLM boom, because it leans very well into what we do. But absolutely, users can ask in natural language, in their own words. They can ask their questions. They need to know, why are my customers churning in this region? Why have my sales dropped in that quarter? The expectation is entirely realistic. A good implementation, or for me, a good implementation is good tools. So tools that have explainability, transparency, reliability. They give you outputs that can be guaranteed do not hallucinate. This is different to tools that maybe are a wrapper around an LLM that give you a lovely answer, I'm sure, but you cannot track backwards, and there is a bit of a black box. You get a more stochastic output. So for me, a good implementation starts with good tools, and a good implementation also relies on tools that give people in the business, that give users something so much better than what they had before, that you don't need to spend large amounts of time on change management. You don't need lengthy setup. Something that's Vetcom is plug and play, or closer to plug and play than a year-long implementation, is definitely a better scenario in my book.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think some of our clients have a kind of fear of taking on big challenges, big changes, and I think I like that plug and play approach, and I think that's something that is very very interesting for potential clients who can try out the solution and see how that works. And I think you've said several times you've kind of made allusions to the differences between basic chatbots and truly intelligent data interaction. Could you draw out some real differences between basic chatbots and truly intelligent data interaction?
Yes, I mean, a basic chatbot won't have AI behind it. It will essentially be like, I always think of them as a very large find and replace in Excel. I mean, that's really what it's doing. It's finding the word and spitting out the predefined answer. And actually, I would like to take the opportunity in the podcast to make the point that quite a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago, one of the projects I did for a very large consulting firm was built one of the first internal chatbots ever. It was so early in its time. It was actually, we didn't call it a chatbot, we called it a talk window. So I was at the forefront of chatbots many years ago. I'm glad they've evolved beyond being called a talk window. And that's essentially what it was. It was a big find and replace. Now, an AI augmented chat assistant is very different. It's taking advantage of transformers, the component of large language models that allow us to put a question to ChatGPT and have such deep, rich, well understood answers returned to us so quickly. They rely on something called the attention mechanism, which gives attention to the different words. So if I were to ask a large language model a question like, why are cats so smart? It will know to give the words cats and smart more attention than the other words. So because they have this powerful capability to understand and of course to work with natural language, translate that natural language into numbers, which is what machines read. They read numbers, they don't read words, and return something so quickly. We are dealing with something that is a lot more power and a lot more intelligence behind it than the large find and replace.
Okay, very clear. Thank you very much for that. Have you any examples of companies that may have won or lost deals based on their data user experience?
I have actually seen examples, David, yes, in the market research space, which is someplace I worked in a few years ago, and at ThoughtSpot on we have customers who are in the market research space as well. Market research is interesting, and it's been impacted heavily by AI and the ability to provide AI-powered data experiences. I did mention at the top of the call, if you are a market research company that's providing reports, and maybe the standard for many years was to provide the twice a year huge big report on the state of brand health, tracking data, of things like that. The competitors, the small tech competitors, were really eating their lunch by being able to have AI-powered, data-powered alternatives that could get to this always-on, real-time. So the large firms had to pivot very quickly. They had to start to really rethink about the data experiences that they provided clients.
Okay, Very clear. And so if you're a chief commercial officer in one of these companies, you're most definitely thinking about the data experience as a competitive differentiator. Any things you might be able to apply, or things that you can draw out to really be competitive? Are there any particularities that we could talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are, for an example, an insurance broker, you will be providing sales data back to the insurance carriers, underwriters who sell their insurance through a brokerage. Now, if you are providing them basic reporting, dashboarding, that's great. They might be happy with that. But what you'll find is that your competitors will be providing them something that is a more elevated experience. They'll be leaning in hard to that. They probably are looking at, well, how do we provide all these insurers with data that they can query in natural language? They're business users. They don't need data scientists to look at it. So, if you can provide something like that to insurance underwriters, you're going to it's just going to be much more easy to work with you. You're going to become stickier with them. You probably are in the position where you can start to put pricing on it. So you could, here's the basic offering that you don't have to pay for. But if you want the natural language, this is what you pay for. You start to have plans that you can, So if you're a chief commercial officer in a space like that or anything analogous to that, you do want to think about these things because your competitors certainly will be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something that is, given what we've said in our last podcast, I think it's becoming clear how to identify what's marketable in terms of that space. So I get that. So for companies providing or reporting as part of their offering, a lot of them have perhaps portals that have fixed reports, like you say. But is there a roadmap that you could describe that would take you from the traditional portals to modern queryable interfaces? And perhaps how has the implementation changed from the older era to now? We're now in the AI era space. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, if you asked me this question 5 years ago, probably 3 years ago, the answers you'd get would be, well, you need to do a big audit. You need to do a vision for what a good looks like. You need to start to do a whole re-implementation, a whole change of approach. But now in the AI era, we just move so quick, especially if you're in a digital business. I always think, no, we can't do a whole big plan because the internet doesn't work like that. It quickly. So, I'd say, just start small. What is you offer reporting as your offering? What is one client that you could trial natural language query with? What is one thing that you could do? How could you start with this? And, get involved in a pilot with someone like ThoughtSpot, see how it works, see how your clients feel about it, see what benefits they're seeing, see if it truly is a game changer for them. And then, once you've established that, then you're starting to get, once that need is there, once you can see that value, you can see that benefit, it becomes easier. After that, you can scale incrementally. After that, you can scale as quickly or as slowly as you like. But I would definitely start with the small pilot and the single client first, rather than let's rethink everything.
I totally agree. And I think in our French market, a lot of our clients are quite worried about this market that's moving very quickly, and I think a lot of them have been asked by their different business units to get on board the AI kind of train, as it were. And I think in our French market, we're quite careful with money. We see in a lot of cases we see a reporting tool or an extra piece of business intelligence. We see that as a kind of cost, and I think that needs to be justified. And I like the approach that you have, where you could say, let's put together a pilot, let's try it out. The cost is small to begin with, and then obviously if the uptake is identified and we can spread that out, and it's easy to spread that out with your architecture that's kind of scalable in that way. And I think that's perhaps one of the cultural differences that we have between, I think in the UK, or stop me if I say anything silly, but I think having worked in the UK myself, I think that we see IT as a kind of, let's have a go at it. It's not an investment. It's more like something that brings benefits above all. Whereas I think in France we're more about, okay, it's instead of an investment, it's more of a cost, and I think we have to be careful of that with some of our French clients. And I think that's that kind of demo. I've seen some of the demos you do at ThoughtSpot, and I think they're very, very interesting. And I think some of our clients should really come and have a look at those. And it's very easy to see the demo. And I think what you've explained about different markets and all of the different strategies that we can put into place. I think you have a very clear vision and a very, very interesting for our clients on how we can move forwards with natural language reporting. I think that's very interesting.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate your experience in the French market. It's really interesting to hear this. I don't know it as well like you do, obviously. But it's definitely in ThoughtSpot. We try not to boil the ocean. We try to see one step at a time is good.
Okay, that's. I think we both agree on that, and I think that brings very much brings to a close our dashboard canteen. I think I'm going to say sadly that it's the last episode of the series. Jane, thank you very much, and we also have Maxime, who's also part of their team as well. Thank you both immensely for putting up with my questions. I know I asked a lot of questions, and I could see some of you are sweating on those, but I think it's important for our clients that we ask the right questions. The market is changing, and I really appreciate how candid you've been for responding to those questions. And as you are now aware, Shift and ThoughtSpot are working together actively to provide you with the most appropriate solutions for your data and analytic needs. Once again, thank you all. And if you have enjoyed this conversation, please share with a colleague. Feel free to consult the other podcasts. There's a lot of information in there. Jane, I've really grilled you on those. Thank you very much. And stay on the cutting edge of data analytics. Stay curious. Stay data savvy. Cheers.